Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast. Michael Beller here with you. I'm with Jake Seeley. I'm with Brandon Funston, and we are going to take a look at some of the biggest questions for Week 7 in the fantasy football world. And believe us, you already know there are questions indeed. Jake, give me your worst bye week situation you've got going on right now.
Not having checked all my teams yet.
So you've got a flurry of decisions to make over the next 72 hours, is what you're saying.
Pretty much. The next 72, I might have to check before tonight's game.
Yeah, right. All the injuries on Cleveland's side of this one, just complicating matters even further. Funston, you got any like Dak Prescott, Keenan Allen, Justin Jefferson sort of teams out there?
I got a team that I was feeling good about skating through because Odell Beckham, I was thinking he was going to play. Now it's not looking like he's going to play, and I literally have nobody on my bench. It means I have to cut somebody important and pick up a non-top 50 wide receiver. So it's going to be ugly. I just saw the news this morning that OBJ is trending the wrong way, so that was not good. That jumps to mind right away this morning.
It's just absolutely brutal, and we're having to do that. A lot of people are having to do that. I have to do that in a league where Logan Thomas was my original tight end, had Jared Cook in his place, and now I'm going to have to drop someone who I actually want to replace Jared Cook with, like, I don't know, Mo Alley Cox. But actually hold those Mo Alley Cox thoughts for a little bit later, because I think we might be liking Mo Alley Cox a little bit. There's some uniformity in your guys' tight end rankings, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Let's just jump right in, guys. Enough beating around the bush. Let's get in. Brutal bye week. We've seen 16 bye weeks before. That's not the craziest thing in the world. But this one is just insane. Cowboys, Bills, Chargers, Jaguars, Vikings, Steelers. So many great players taken off the board, and that is before we even talk about injuries. So at the quarterback position, what does that mean? No Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins. 3 of those guys, no doubt about it, starters. Lawrence and Cousins, you could be totally starting them and feeling okay about it. So we are really talking about a depleted quarterback position this week, Jake. Is there a quarterback out there, however, who still you look at and you're like, no thanks, I'm all right. I don't need to start you this week.
Yeah, Jared Goff. Go that far.
Anyone a little higher than that?
Jameis. Just at this point, like I don't think you have a lot of choices to be able to be that. I don't really want to. I mean, I'm looking down my list right now. It's like, most weeks before this, I would have said, I don't really want to do Sam Darnold. But at this point, he's a fringe QB1 this week. So where do you really go? You can't be too picky. Brandon's not even having. I mean, honestly, in Brandon's situation, I might just leave the spot empty when it comes to wide receiver.
I know, right? It's something to consider if you have to actually cut somebody that you just wouldn't want to do. But I think my answer for this is maybe Carson Wentz. I'm like, on Carson Wentz most weeks. He's like, okay, if I need 250 and 2 in his best of times, it's kind of what you get with him. But now you're on the road and you get San Francisco coming off the bye. I'm like, I know it's a tough bye week, but am I still, am I excited about Carson Wentz? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and you have to start someone. This is not a position where you could take a zero. You could take a zero at a tight end position if you don't really want to cut someone, depending on the depth of your league. Maybe you take a zero at a very deep wide receiver position. Quarterback, you got to start someone. So there are some directions you can go in if you're looking at some of the guys that we're talking about here. One thing that jumped out at me when I was looking at your guys' rankings is that you basically have Tua Tagovailoa and Sam Darnold flipped, with Brandon being higher on Tua and Jake being higher on Darnold. So let's hear this as a head-to-head case. Brandon, go ahead and make the case for Tua first.
The case is he's coming off a game in which he was a top, he was a QB1. This is one of the highest volume pass attacks because they can't run the ball. Atlanta's one of the worst pass defenses, pass DVOA, quarterback rating allowed. Just a really good matchup. So my case is we got a guy who just last week put up really good numbers going against a really bad Atlanta pass defense.
Yeah, and Tua will move up a spot or two now that we have the word that Devontae Parker looks more almost definite to play this week. But it just comes down to I don't dislike Tua, and I'm not disagreeing with anything that Brandon said. It's just he looked hesitant to run sometimes in that first game back, and that's the bigger thing is kind of take that away. Is he only going to run for 15 yards, and you kind of lose the upside of Tua? He's still streamable. He's still in the conversation with Daniel Jones and Sam Darnold and stuff like that. But I would just take Matt Ryan on the other side, because I think Matt Ryan is going to have no problem throwing against the Miami defense, and he already had a great game heading into the bye with no Calvin Ridley, who's coming back. So that's really why I go Matt Ryan over him, and probably even Joe Burrow, despite the fact he's not throwing to what we want. At least he's being efficient doing so.
By the way, can I just interject?
Yeah.
Since when did Tua become so persona non grata in the NFL? Like, with those Deshaun Watson, like everybody's like,
there's no
way
we're
out on
Those
Tua.
rumors are garbage. Those rumors are not
think
true.
So, yeah.
There's a reason why all those are coming from Houston.
There sure is a lot of pushback from like every team though that no, we have no interest in Tua whatsoever. It's like really, people are already out on Tua. I'm not there. I'm not there yet.
No, I wouldn't quite be there yet. Jake, what's the pro Darnold case? You more made an anti-Tua case than a pro Darnold case, and it doesn't need to be anti-Tua, but like what? I mean, last I looked, Darnold was your QB12 for the week.
So where is he right now? He's QB 13, so not a huge difference. There's not a pro. This is you're stuck. It's this Sam Darnold. It's Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones are better than Jameis Winston and Taylor Heineke and Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's nothing more about it. I mean, you put all the 6 teams in a bye and he's down to QB 17. So I don't really want to argue that much for Sam Darnold.
That's just the sort of week that we find ourselves in. And something else that came out at me, you guys, when I was looking at your rankings, you both have Ryan Tannehill ranked 8th at the quarterback position this week, at least at my last check. This is, I think, a big week for him, you guys, because it's a great spot against a Chiefs defense that has been very friendly to literally everyone that they've played this season. But Ryan Tannehill has not had a good fantasy year. QB 22 in points per game, and by week, he's gone 24, 24, 8, 21, 22, 18. What do we need to see from him, Jake, that makes you feel comfortable with him as a consistent fantasy starter?
The touchdowns that's the biggest difference between Tannehill last year. It's funny you say Sam Darnold before. The Sam Darnold and Ryan Tannehill aren't that much different than the quarterbacks we saw last year. Sam Darnold slightly better, but not that much. He's getting boosted in fantasy by the rushing touchdowns. Ryan Tannehill is worse, but slightly worse. It's just the biggest difference is coming down that he doesn't have that touchdown efficiency. He's not throwing 2+ per game despite only 17 or 18 pass attempts. That's the biggest difference. Yeah, otherwise, Tannehill is pretty much doing very similar. So that's what we have to see. If come out of this game with 2 passing touchdowns, and I'll feel better about what Ryan Tannehill's been doing this year.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry has 51 more rushing attempts than any other running back in the league through 6 weeks. He has 10 rushing touchdowns. I mean, a lot of Ryan Tannehill's production is being taken away by Derrick Henry. And so the thought is eventually in these games against Buffalo and Kansas City, Tennessee's not going to be able to keep it close the entire way and just lean on Derrick Henry the entire way. At some point, Ryan Tannehill is going to actually have to throw the ball a decent amount to get this team going. So, I'm hedging in this one that might end up being the case.
57.5 is the over-under in this game, and the Chiefs' defense is as bad as you think it is. Last in the NFL in yards per play allowed, according to True Media, 30th in both yards per pass attempt and yards per carry allowed. So don't let them, the fact that they held a Washington offense that was backup quarterback, injured Terry McLaurin, injured Antonio Gibson, no Curtis Samuel, no Logan Thomas. Don't let them try to pass that off as the defense has turned a corner here. This should be a big week for the Tennessee offense. And again, 57.5, the over-under in that game. I believe that is the highest over-under that we've seen so far this season. Since we don't have a ton more to talk about because of all the buys, just give me someone who you guys think right now. Brandon, you can take this one first. The most underappreciated fantasy QB that we've got going in the season.
I think I just have to. I think it's Jalen Hurts. He's QB 6 right now. I have a hard time even when I say it, even believing myself. He's a heartbeat away from Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray's per game production. And it's no different a per game production than what he averaged as a starter in his 4 games last year. So we're now at like 10 games of him being an elite producer. And like I said, I know he's underappreciated because as I say it, I still am having a hard time buying it, So I think Jalen Hurts, if I'm thinking about it, he's probably the guy for me.
Yeah, I think that's a decent one. But at this point, I'm surprised you didn't say Derek Carr. That's your boy for the entire year.
I know it is, but
that's where I thought you were going to.
Jalen Hurts has been elite, and yet I don't, mentally kind of that doesn't jibe with me still. And so I was like, okay, if that's the case, I should say Jalen Hurts because It's a step above even Derek
Well,
Carr. And I
I mean,
even
that
think
makes
Derek
sense.
Carr and Kirk Cousins are both my fallback guys.
Well, Kirk Cousins actually hasn't been doing that good all of a sudden. And that
Well, it's
schedule
QB
coming up
11 though. That's where that's
yeah,
see, that's
but
just
he
the
was
case.
QB 6, and that schedule is getting pretty gross. That's about to come up if nobody's looked at it. So, that being said, I think the one I'm going to go back to him is I dropped his name before. We pounded the table to draft him in the preseason. Is Joe Burrow because he's not throwing. Yeah, he's not throwing for volume, but he's throwing efficiently. And if you want to offset it, like I said he's turned into Ryan Tannehill. That's the difference. Is he's now Ryan Tannehill. So people don't even want to use him, don't even want to roster him, and they have questions about him every single week. And I just find it surprising. I still think, is he top 10? No, but is he a fringe QB1 every single week? Yeah, and I see a lot of people that don't even want to start him.
Ravens, Bengals, Ravens -6.5. Who you guys got? Against the spread.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know if I'd touch that one. Seems about right.
I'll say they cover.
I'll say since he covers, I think they'll
Cincy, Jake.
I said that already. I beat him to it, and then he kept
Them
talking.
too. You just said they cover, and now everyone uses cover ubiquitously, even though cover is what
and
favorites
lose.
do.
Cover and lose.
Just one of my axes
the dog
to grind.
covers.
Favorites cover. Dogs beat spreads. Dogs beat spreads. Favorites cover.
Oh,
spreads.
see, well, there you go. I was actually I was saying the dog to cover. So
well, it's totally ubiquitous now, and it's fine. But I'm just, I like words to mean something and to retain their meaning and retain their importance.
Save it for best on the
English
boards, would you?
You got it, Funston. Anything for you, Funston. Hey, not everyone's perfect. I mean, look at these guys using incorrect betting terminology. It's totally ridiculous. Not everyone is perfect. So if you feel like you come up short in the bedroom, sometimes it is perfectly okay. But if it's bothering you, there are options. Go to GetRoman.com/fantasy now. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. A U.S. licensed healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, it ships to you free with 2-day shipping. The whole process is straightforward and discreet. Getting started is simple. Just go to GetRoman.com/fantasy and complete an online visit. Take care of your ED without leaving home. Complete an online visit today to connect with a doctor and take care of it. Go to GetRoman.com/fantasy now to get $15 off your first month of treatment. Again, get started right now. Save $15 on your first month of treatment. Go to GetRoman.com/fantasy. There's a specialist for just about everything, right? That's why you're here on this show. You're coming to us because we think we know a thing or two about fantasy football. We're going to help you out in this crazy bye week. So when you want to get your uneven, crooked teeth fixed, you should find that specialist for that too, right? You just want to see an orthodontist because they are the specialists, and that's what sets Candid, the invisible, comfortable, and removable aligners above the rest. While poorly reviewed or insanely priced clear aligner companies use general dentists, Candid only works with orthodontists. With Candid, the same orthodontist who created your plan is with you from start to finish, so you never have to wonder what you are doing. The average Candid treatment is just 6 months. You're going to start seeing results way before that, and it costs thousands less than traditional braces. And with your aligner treatment, you'll get Candid's teeth whitening for free. I wish this was available back when I was 12 or 13 in the late 90s, because it would have saved me some of the mouth cutting up that we all had to deal with back then. Not going to have any of that with Candid. Candid can help you get the straighter, brighter smile that you've always wanted. Right now, you can save $75 on your Candid starter kit when you get started from home, or you can book an appointment at a Candid studio near you today. Go to candidco.com/fantasy and use the code fantasy. That's candidco.com/fantasy with the code fantasy to take advantage of this limited time offer to save $75 on your starter kit. All right, guys, running back position up next here, and this one brutal too. No Zeke, no Eckler, no James Robinson, no Dalvin Cook, no Najee Harris. Thus, those are just the guys on bye. That has nothing to do with any of the injured guys. So here's my question. I think this is where we have to start out at running back. Jake, who represents the running back breaking point? And by that, I mean, who is the guy who you're first thinking about? Yeah, maybe he's not an automatic starter. At what point do you actually have to think about whether a guy should be in your lineup?
Miles Gaskin, honestly.
That's my guy too.
That's what
Miles Gaskin. Yes, we need a chart. We need someone in the graphics team quickly to get us a chart with Miles Gaskin right at the nexus.
I mean, well, that's the thing is at this point, I said for weeks that you can't trust this backfield, and there was a lot of people that wanted to rank him, top 24 last week because of the matchup, and we had talked about it, I think, on this show or whatever it was. But Myles Gaskin has been used in the passing game, like the Bucs game, but outside of that, it's Malcolm Brown and Savon Ahmed getting their fair share if they're contending or in the lead, and then he fumbled, and that made things even worse. I don't care what the matchup. Even if we're looking at another passing game matchup, I say, okay, maybe you can feel a little bit better about him, but you can never feel great about starting. I start J.D. McKissick over Myles Gaskin at this point.
Oh, I love.
And where is so you guys both have Myles Gaskin as that breaking point. Funston, where is he in your rankings? He's RB what?
I think he's RB 26 for me right now, RB 25, 26. But I have Alex Collins right in front of him, and he sort of is there as well because A, he's not that healthy. B, Rashad Penny's back. C, it's the New Orleans Saints who you can't run on. So, there's a lot I don't like about Alex Collins as well. For as much as I don't like that about Alex Collins, I still like him better than Myles Gaskin.
So then we're all saying, go ahead. What you got, Jake?
I was going to say, do we even know if Rashad Penny's definitely playing? Is that 100%?
Sounds like it's not 100% at all. Nothing's 100% with Rashad Penny, but things are trending positively.
Is it finally going to happen? We're finally going to get Rashad Penny time?
We might.
We might get featured Rashad Penny time, right? Depending on what the deal is with Alex Collins. That's something we've been waiting for years here.
Yeah, I don't know if they're willing to, even if Collins doesn't play, if they're willing to just throw him into a feature role right out of the bat. So it might not be wise.
Yeah, it's. That just drives home though what a crazy week this is. That basically we're saying everyone above Myles Gaskin is, unless you're somehow super deep and not at all hurt by what's been going on at this position, just an easy click right into your starting lineup. That's what we're looking at the running back position, and we're going to have a similar conversation when we get to wide receivers. Obviously, if we're talking about Myles Gaskin as this breaking point, then there are some strange names inside our top 20. Funston, who are you oddly excited about starting that's in your top 20?
Well, I'll say J.D. McKissick, but I won't. I'll say another name because you want me to make a case for him at a different time, right? Or you want me to?
How do you know that? You don't know that.
It's true. I don't know. Telepathy. I will say Elijah Mitchell because, again, coming off by Jimmy Garoppolo back at quarterback. Jake's talked about this before. Even if you were worried about Trey Sermon, you worry about him less with a more traditional quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo than someone like Trey Lance who's not under center a whole lot. So Elijah Mitchell is at his best game with Jimmy Garoppolo. You got Indianapolis, not a defense I fear on the ground, and I just think with no Jeff Wilson likely this week yet, I think this is potentially a 20-plus touch game for Elijah Mitchell.
So where am I supposed to go with this then?
I
have Elijah Mitchell.
Were you going to say Mitchell?
I mean,
is he who you were planning on saying? I'll tell you where you can go with it. I was hoping one of you was going to say James Conner.
Yeah. What if I'm banking on a touchdown completely? I can see that. James Conner versus
you have
Miles.
him as what, like RB17, RB18?
I know. I was gonna say James Conner versus Miles Sanders is like a legitimate conversation that we're having right now. So
yeah,
I guess there you go.
Starting James Conner over Miles.
I'm starting James Conner in that for sure.
And I think that's where we're at now, and that's sad.
Yeah,
that's just the reality of this week. I mean, that's really just what we're looking at. Do you take anything? And we talked about this a little bit on Monday, but now that we have another couple of days, Jake, I mean, James Conner did get the 16 carries last week. We know that Chase Edmonds was banged up going into that game, and we know that it was a game that it had a script that maybe Arizona can follow again. Is there anything there that you try to rest on with James Conner?
I'm not going to go too much off it. I still think Chase Edmonds is very similar to the Denver situation. Is maybe one of the weeks where Javonte Williams had the big run, or Melvin Gordon was a little bit more banged up. I think it's similar with them. So I think I have them back to back in my ranking. So you could probably use both of them in this week. But I'm not definitively sitting here saying one is so much better than the other just because of one game.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know, that's exactly what we're going to be looking at with a couple of situations here this week. All right, Funston, you hinted at it a little bit. Let's get into make a case for. We've got four names that no one except for me knows the identity of these four names. Here's the first one. Holy cow. Lo and behold, Funston, make a case for J.D. McKissick.
Wow, that is uncanny.
You are prescient, my friend.
Okay, so Virginia Zakis nailed this last week going into the Week 6 game. She's like, Antonio Gibson should not be playing. He has a stress fracture in his shin. It's not a pain tolerance issue. It's a if you play on it, you can make it worse issue. And so I don't think he's playing. I'm ranking J.D. McKissic as if Antonio Gibson will not play, and I'm ranking J.D. McKissic as the featured guy. That Jared Patterson, who I think is funny, a lot of people want to say, well, he's going to get a lot of the carries between the tackles. Jared Patterson is a rookie who's 5'9", 195 pounds. J.D. McKissic is 5'10", 195 pounds. J.D. McKissic talked in the preseason about how he bulked up so that he could handle more carries, and I think he's just going to be the main guy in this one. We saw him come in last week and get 16 touches, went for over 100 yards in that game, and I think we're going to see a similar workload. And 8 catches. There's the catch upside. Those are so valuable in any kind of PPR bumped league that I just think J.D. McKissic in a week with all these buys, he's a top 20 play in my mind if Gibson doesn't play.
Jake, where are you at on McKissic for this week?
I'm not as bullish if there is no Antonio Gibson. I mean, I have Gibson still in my rankings, but even if he's out, I do think Jared Patterson, not necessarily wrong in what Brandon's saying. I just think it'll be more of a 50-50 split. I don't see J.D. McKissic being a feature guy just because of who he is. And I don't even necessarily mean the bulking up. I just necessarily mean, like, how good is he between the tackles? Maybe that's changed to this point, but we still haven't seen a ton of it for his usage. So I'd say 50-50.
So the lead in the passing game is probably the most important thing in a game where you're a touchdown underdog on the road to Green Bay. Like, they may not get the volume in the running game anyway, so it could be another 8-catch game for McKissic.
And that's fair. Like I said, I like McKissic. I don't disagree with that part of it. It's just I don't think I'll have McKissic. I don't know, top 20 question mark if there's no. I mean, he'd be right in that.
If there's no Gibson,
it'd be similar to the Arizona and the Denver range of guys.
Yeah.
Honestly. And actually how I have the Bears right now because I have both Bears playing as of now.
And that's something we'll talk about in just a second here. But first, Jake, you got to make a case for someone too. Let's go with the guy we've talked about a couple of times in this exact space. Let's hear another case for Michael Carter this week, Jakey boy.
Talent wins out, but also fact is he was starting to trend up even a little bit more before they hit their bye, and not, again, Tevin Coleman and Ty Johnson were still being involved, but trending up, and we wouldn't be the first time we've seen a team go into the bye and come out of the bye with a different game plan, more increased usage for rookies in general, running backs, wide receivers, whatever it might be. It's often the time where you see a little bit of the change in the guard, and he's already trending up before this. So I just think that Michael Carter, who, by the way, is also neck and neck with Ty Johnson and goal line carries and just one behind him and goal to go, despite it seems like Ty Johnson's taking all of them. It's not as bad as people think it is. It's very close so far. So if he even or given 20% more of that kind of work, we're talking top 20 running back here.
Let's tackle a couple of questions here really quickly before we get to our next topic. This one coming to us from Jiggles3. Michael Carter, Damian Williams above the Gaskin breaking point in Jake's rankings. Below it in Brandon's. Do you feel iffy about either of these guys this week? We tackle Michael Carter. Damian Williams can lead us right into our next point here, which is, Jake, can you start both Bears backs this week?
Yeah, you could start both Bears backs. You can start both Cardinals running backs. You can start both Broncos running backs. A lot of people don't have the choice not to start, but I don't think a lot of people have both. But if you are in a situation you need to, yeah, I think you could.
Where do you guys feel like Damian Williams is going to play? I mean, he straight up has COVID. So, do you think he's going to be cleared in time?
Well, I mean, we're still waiting. This is, like I said, this is the assumption he is. I would change it if not. But if he is, it's also
it is
I hedge sometimes, and I've been hedging a little bit that we don't get Damian Williams. So
I guess with COVID, we probably know before Sunday, but it is a late kick for what it's worth. That Bears Bucks are in the 4:30 Eastern window, so you might have to make a call. But I think with COVID, we've been finding out before. That's not like he's got a sprained ankle, he's a game time decision. Sort of, especially with the Bears being on the road. Like if he's not going to play, he's not going to travel. So there we go. I worked all the way through that cycle of decision making. If he's not going to play, Damian Williams isn't going to travel. But in the world where he does play, Funston, can you play him over? Can you play him over Myles Gaskin? Can you play him and Khalil Herbert?
Well, I mean, do we have any hope that the Bears can run at all against the Bucs? So then you're just talking about who has passing game upside, and if Damian Williams plays, I'm actually going to move Damian Williams ahead of Herbert in my rankings because I think he would have the better path to those passing reps. But I don't know that I'm going to end up ranking either one of these guys if they're both playing because they're splitting a bit ahead of Myles Gaskin because Myles Gaskin is a week removed from 10-catch game, and he's been a guy that Tua has targeted in the passing game. I know I'm beating my head against this wall, but I guarantee you, as soon as we write Myles Gaskin off, he'll burn us. That happens all the time. So
let it happen.
He's the Jared Cook, Jake. He's Jared Cook of running backs. But I mean, you talk about these guys all the time. You can't discount the fact that Myles Gaskin could show up when you're just about ready to
you can because you're never going to pick the right game. So this is just move on from him and stop messing around.
This is anticipating our head-to-head on Myles Gaskin, which I guess we sort of just tackled. Who's an RB3 that you should think should be in your lineups this week, Jake?
Nobody.
There's got to be somebody.
Don't say it. That's my guy, Jake. Dang it.
Well, it's in my waiver column or my articles or sleepers, whatever the hell it is. Ramondre Stevenson.
It's in one of them. It's in one of them.
Yeah. It's, the fact that they're giving them passing down work, which is interesting and surprising, to say the least. But, yeah, I would say Ramondre Stevenson, and also because the upside is if Damian Harris leaves the game early, now you're looking at like, oh, man, I would have started him as a top 25 running back, or even potentially top 20. So there's upside within the game if something were to happen.
Yeah, it's not Belichick's going to always have two backs in the orbit in the backfield, and so the Jets, I was just looking it up, the Jets have given up the most rush attempts per game while trailing at like 22 a game. So they give up a lot of carries because teams just get ahead of them, and I think that could be, second half Ramondre Stevenson, and as I mentioned as well, like it seems like Belichick's trying to create this LeGarrette Blount, James White, Frankenstein hybrid kind of monster here in Ramondre, which is weird, but it's piqued my interest for sure.
Patriots are 7-point favorites in this game. They already beat the Jets earlier this year, 25-6. So maybe that plays into your thinking with Ramondre Stevenson as well. If you think the Patriots can repeat that week 2 script against this Jets team, we should see plenty of running from them in the second half. We already talked about dropping pens all over the place. We already talked about Myles Gaskin as a head-to-head. Here's another interesting head-to-head. It's Chase Edmonds, and we've tangentially touched on him a little bit, but I mean, you're both starting him. But I just thought it was interesting that Jake is so much more confident in Chase Edmonds, having him as RB15, Brandon down at RB21. Again, both of you, if you have Chase Edmonds, are likely starting him. But Brandon, why are you less excited about the prospect of Chase Edmonds as a starting fantasy back this week?
Because they have two viable backs, and Chase Edmonds hasn't been healthy the last couple of weeks, and he's averaged 5.8 fantasy points in those two games, and they're playing a game which are, what is this point spread, 15 points or something like that? Like, this is maybe
17.
The best team in the league against the worst team in the league, and do you have to put Chase Edmonds in harm's way if his shoulder's still bothering him in any way, shape, or form? Clearly, I think because he's averaged, 8 touches the last 2 weeks, they have limited his touches, and I don't know that they need to push that anymore this week and, maybe try to get him right for when the competition gets a little bit tougher down the road.
No, I don't really have much to say besides the fact that, I just think he could be efficient on the touches that he does get, and they did give him touches, even coming off an injury, and he's another week removed. So, yeah, look, it's bye week 6 teams on a bye week. It's not like you have a glorious amount of options to be able to sit these guys.
Yeah, we all know that, but we still got to make arguments and find ways to get guys into our lineups and find guys to like. And speaking of that, Jake, give us a running back who you're higher on than most for the rest of the season. Got a lot of people looking at trade discussions. We're going to get to a wide receiver trade question in a bit here. A running back that maybe you go out and try to trade for, you're higher on than most for the rest of the season.
For the rest of the season?
Rest of season. Not necessarily. It could be part of week 7, but not necessarily week 7.
I mean, all the injured running backs, just because they're good buy low opportunities because everybody's in dire straits with the buys and stuff like that. But I'll say for what he's bringing in trades, look, I'm not high on him. I'm just high on the fact of if Sirianni is telling the truth and wants to fix this offense, which involves some more run reads and RPOs and all the nonsense that whatever it is might be, you need more of the run game. and they've abandoned the run game. And we know what Miles Sanders could be. And again, I'm not like super excited to be like, oh my God, do everything you can to go get Miles Sanders. But people want to drop Miles Sanders. So if you're going to give him for super cheap in a trade, if this team just goes back to giving him, hell, 12 touches consistently a game, I think they were, we'd back into the conversation of having him as an RB2, not what we wanted at the beginning of the season, not what people were hoping for. But, I mean, I guess that's technically higher than most people would have Miles Sanders at this point.
You want me to jump in here? Is that what you're saying?
Of course. We love your brain.
I'm going to pivot a little bit. I just kind of pivot. Like, Javonte Williams is a guy that we've been talking about the second half of the season, But I'm going to actually say Melvin Gordon because I don't think. And here's the deal: you look at after their Week 11 bye, it is smash spot after smash spot after smash spot matchups. Like it is such a good. And Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, they're 50-50, and I don't know that anything's going to change as long as those guys stay healthy. Like so, Javonte Williams on the open markets, people are more excited about his upside. He's a rookie. He's a shiny new thing. Oh, it's going to happen in the second half. It might make a little bit more touches, but I actually think Melvin Gordon's going to be super strong the rest of the way if he stays healthy, and you can get him for cheaper than Javonte Williams. So you might not be any worse off by making that move than if you would have got Javonte, but you can get him for cheaper.
Here's something I love about both of the guys that you guys just offered up. These guys are gettable. People are willing to trade Miles Sanders. People are willing to trade Melvin Gordon. I think too much trade advice in our line of work focuses on guys who people just aren't going to trade. Right? That's just not going to happen. But these guys, Melvin Gordon, Miles Sanders, definitely attainable. That's what I like about those two recommendations. And I follow you. I follow you on the advice as well. So two guys to maybe take a look at if you feel like you could use a little bit of help and maybe a little bit of cheaper than it should be help in the running back position for the remainder of the season. After years of fine print contracts from Big Wireless, we've learned that there's often a catch, but with Mint Mobile, there is no catch. Mint Mobile is the first company to sell wireless service online only. By cutting out retail stores, there are no crazy overhead costs that get passed down to you in the form of mystery fees. Instead, all Mint passes on are those sweet, sweet savings. For people looking for extra savings, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk and text and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. You can keep your same phone number, keep all those contacts. Don't have to do anything annoying to get those over. And if you're not 100% satisfied, Mint Mobile has you covered with their 7-day money-back guarantee. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 and get the plan shipped to your door free, go to mintmobile.com/fantasy. That's mintmobile.com/fantasy. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/fantasy. Cashback credit card rewards, so 2020. Am I right, you guys? You can earn Bitcoin instead with BlockFi. BlockFi has the world's first Bitcoin rewards credit card that lets you earn an unlimited 1.5% in Bitcoin on all qualifying purchases. Introducing the BlockFi Rewards Visa Signature Card, the easiest way to get Bitcoin by just making everyday purchases. Buy groceries, pay your bills, fill up a pump, whatever it might be. You can earn 1.5% back in Bitcoin on all qualifying purchases, and there are no reward limits. There's no annual fee, no foreign transaction fees, none of that. BlockFi is a leader in crypto, was named to Forbes FinTech 50 list in 2021. Our listeners can get a bonus of $25 in crypto after making their first purchase with the credit card when you sign up at blockfi.com/fantasy. That's $25 in crypto deposited right into your account after you make your first purchase, but you have to use our URL, blockfi.com/fantasy. Not all are eligible. Geographic, regulatory, and underwriting restrictions apply. Fees and terms are subject to change. Additional terms of service at blockfi.com. BlockFi is a financial technology company. All right, dudes. Let's talk some wide receivers. We actually got a couple of questions that I want us to get to first. Let's get to this question from Brad, trying to make a deal for Calvin Ridley. We're both people. Brad, that's what fantasy football is all about. DJ Moore, Woods, Amari, A-Rob, and Ruggs. Was thinking about Woods and A-Rob or Ruggs. What are your thoughts on that? So I'm trading Woods and A-Rob or Ruggs for Calvin Ridley. Is that something you would do, Jake?
Wait, so Woods and A-Rob for Calvin Ridley?
That's how I read this.
Okay.
Woods and A-Rob or Ruggs, right? I mean, that's how I read this question.
I kind of would rather have Ruggs the rest of the year than A-Rob. So if I'm the other side,
yeah, but yeah. So I
would
thought
you trade the two for the one with the one?
I
being
thought
Ridley?
I thought it was Ruggs either way. So
This
okay,
is-
so
yeah, this
Oh,
is like
Woods. Yeah.
this is
Either
like a-
way, would you trade two of these guys for Ridley?
this is like a 4-2 team trading to a 2-4 team, where the 2-4
I don't
team
mind it.
needs
It
to-
just if it was A-Rob and Ruggs, I would definitely do it. and I love Ruggs. But the Woods and A-Rob, I can be okay with. You have the depth, and I understand this is a go for the win. This is the go for if Calvin Ridley comes back huge after the bye, you're never going to get him cheaper than he is right now. So I don't mind it. I don't love the Woods and Ruggs though, and that's even with the fact that Ruggs is essentially Tyler Lockett now. You can get 4 for 80 and a touchdown, or you could get 2 for 35, and that's just who he is.
Who do you rank higher, Amari or Woods the rest of the year?
Amari.
Yeah, I'd still go Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I think I would too. I'm trying to figure out there's a way to kind of, meet in the middle.
Finesse the trade.
Between the A-Rob and Ruggs. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a little bit more hesitant if I have to give up Ruggs, where if it's A-Rob and Woods, that's the deal for me.
Well, here's one more question involving A-Rob. It comes from Phil. Phil wants to know, in a pure upside sort of play, A-Rob over Michael Carter, is that a dumb move to do?
For me, it is.
But upside though, you gotta look and say, Chicago would like to run the ball, but they may not have any choice but to take advantage of where.
What is Allen Robinson's upside right now, though, with what we've seen this
Michael
season?
Carter's got a ton of upside himself.
Yeah, you know me. I like Michael Carter. I'm starting Michael Carter. I'm going to talk myself into it, no matter what. So yeah.
I think this is one of those cases where we've just seen so little from Chicago's passing game that the upside might be with the RB25 over the guy who we were drafting as a top 10 wide receiver. That's just how far Chicago's passing game has fallen this season. Wide receiver breaking point, you guys. Who is that this week, Jake? Again, everyone above this person in 99 circumstances out of 100, you're starting. This guy is the first guy who you're like, maybe 50-50.
Darnell Mooney at 34.
Darnell Mooney at wide receiver 34. Who you got here, Funston?
Man, I'm close with Jake because that's right about where my breaking point is. But the guy that's right in front of Darnell Mooney is the one who's kind of breaking me, and that's Tyler Lockett. I just don't know. It's the Allen Robinson situation where, look, he's a talented player, but with Geno Smith in there, it's been 5+ quarters. He's been targeted 11 times, has 3 catches for 42 yards in total. It's just not good. And this New Orleans Saints defense is really good. Geno could have just an abysmal night on Monday night, and Tyler Lockett could end up with nothing. It could be bad. So to me, that's the one that's breaking me a little bit before the Bears receivers are breaking me.
Funston, who are the people that you have in your rankings right before Lockett, just to give people an idea of who you're pretty much putting into starting lineups?
Tim Patrick, Corey Davis, Jacoby Myers. That
all
kind
right.
of group. Those are guys are right.
Jake, how about you? Who you got right in front of Mooney?
Let me go back and check. Allen Robinson, Henry Ruggs, Renfro, Lockett, Pittman, Higgins, Shepard, all those guys. Parker.
Higgins was the next one ahead of the guys I mentioned. So, Higgins is in there as well.
All right, well, let's go in the same direction we did back at the running back position. Funston, someone in that, he's pretty much a starter for everyone group that you're oddly excited about being in your starting lineups this week.
Well, I went top shelf here because he's a wide receiver 1, but he's in consensus he's wide receiver 10 overall, and I have him wide receiver 5, and that's A.J. Brown. It's just the matchup. It's Julio Jones being out. They're going to have to throw the ball. It's that A.J. Brown looked really good down the stretch of that last game against Buffalo, and I think he's in a huge position here to be one of the top deliverers at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I have A.J. Brown super high too. He's inside my top 10. Where'd you say you had him at 5?
I'm 5, yeah.
I'm 8, so I'm not that far behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say higher than most. Maybe Robert Woods, but that's +4. Brandon Cooks. There you go, Brandon Cooks. I've already seen questions about it. What about the Arizona defense? I'm like, oh my God, how many times do we have to do this with Brandon Cooks this year? It's volume, man. Why are we so upset about the volume? Just start Brandon Cooks and stop thinking it. No, stop overthinking it.
All right, we've got a good head-to-head at this position. Again, this is similar to what we talked about the running back position. It's hard to find guys who you guys are going to have these big differences of opinion about where one wants to play him and one doesn't. But there's a pretty big gap here between Corey Davis with Jake being high and Brandon being low. So let's hear that borderline wide receiver 2 for Corey Davis case, Jake.
Volume again. He's the number 1, and I know Jamison Crowder I have is a pretty strong play as well, and I think people are underrating Jamison Crowder, but it just comes down to Crowder and Corey Davis are basically wide receiver 3s, maybe 4s if every team is playing, more so Crowder than Davis. But the volume's been pretty consistent. It's not quite as great as Brandon Cooks, but he's the number one for an offense that's, going to be passing at least some. I mean, yes, they probably want to run a little bit in this game, but at least some. And this isn't the Patriots defense of past years where we're worried about throwing against them. So it just comes down to a volume game and really the names he's in front of too. Like you're really not going to start Corey Davis over the Chicago options at this point. And that's more what it is.
Yeah, I'm full disclosure. I'm up to wide receiver 30 on Davis now, so the gap's closed a little bit. But this is, I think, is muscle memory. I remember week 2 saying, "Oh, you know what? When you only give one player for Bill Belichick to worry about, that guy gets shut out." And and then Corey Davis went out and got 2 catches for 8 yards. So I think somewhere in my subconscious, I'm just I'm revisiting that narrative, but I think it still applies. I mean, I think you're now in New England, and Corey Davis is now maybe the one guy that you can worry about Zach Wilson rolling out, throwing deep balls, and hurting you. And I just think Bill Belichick will have his team prepared for that.
This, you guys, is going to be a week where we see a lot of players outside the top 40 at this position in starting lineups with all of those buys. Again, wide receiver, just absolutely crushed by the buys. CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Steph Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Marvin Jones, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. All those guys start every single week. Some of those guys are top 10 options. So who's someone, Brandon, you're looking at outside the consensus top 40 that you're like, yeah, I could throw that dude in my lineups this week?
I got a kind of a warm and fuzzy feeling for Van Jefferson. Love the matchup.
Okay.
He's hit pretty much in every home game. But it's like the Rams. This is a Matt Stafford revenge game narrative or whatever. Like
it's more Goff who's got the revenge.
Yeah, I know,
factor.
but like. What it is this is like, again, one of the best teams against one of the worst teams, similar to Arizona and Houston. And it's like, I don't think it's just going to be Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods eating. I think Van Jefferson, or maybe weirdly a Deshaun Jackson big play. I think there's a big play from that third or fourth receiver for the Rams coming in this one. Van Jefferson's been that guy for the most part. He's had an 80 and 90 yard game with a touchdown. I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 2 for 70 plus and a touchdown kind of game for Van Jefferson.
Yeah, so I think that I'll go back to the name I just mentioned with the Corey Davis is Jamison Crowder. People still don't want to play Jamison Crowder in the fight. I understand the fact that he's been hurt and he's disappointed people before, but the truth is Jamison Crowder, when healthy and when on the field, continues to produce. And if Brandon's right about they try to stop Corey Davis, then Jamison Crowder just might go off this week.
Jamison Crowder missed that first game, right? Against the Jets or against the Patriots?
Yep.
Yeah, so things maybe could look a little bit different for that Jets passing game. All right, guys, you know what time it is. Boom, 4 names. Let's make a case for someone. These are going to be, oh, man, I just dropped one. A little bit higher, so I guess 3 names. These are going to be a little bit higher than some of the guys we were just talking about. And, again, I think guys who are at least a handful of them comfortably in starting lineups. But let's say, all right, Jake, this one's for you. Make a case for the largely forgotten over the last few weeks, Tyler Boyd, Bengals, Ravens.
Why? I don't want to make a case for Tyler Boyd.
You had him like wide receiver.
How about
34
How about 6-team bye week? There you go. There's your case.
That's like Tyler.
You have him wide receiver 29 right now. I'm looking at your rankings.
No, I don't. Yeah, the updated rankings. No, he's. I mean,
updated
now.
As of when? 10 minutes ago.
So I'm working on it at the same time. This first run is.
TheAthletic.com.
Okay, they're not done. I'm telling you, they always update Thursday morning. It's the time of the show. I'm still not making a case for him, even if he was. I'm looking at, there's clear opportunity, like Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham being out, like that changed. So I'm just saying, there's reasons that it's changed, reasons afterwards. He's now down in the 30s. He's in the mid-30s, which is still not making a case for him because he's the odd man out. Brandon just said it. It's 6 teams on a bye. That's the only reason he's even playable anymore.
Can you make a case
Hey, wait,
for
so Jarvis Landry's playing,
Kirk?
right? Like, so you saying you moved Jarvis Landry up?
Last we saw in Jarvis Landry is likely to be activated. Doesn't necessarily mean he's playing, but likely playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
interested if he's playing.
Unbelievable. Want to tell us about your top candy then instead of making a case for Tyler Boyd? Because there are some great candy rankings in Jake's rankings column this week as well.
No, just that's just check the link.
Where does Take 5? I didn't check. Where does Take 5 show up?
18th.
Yeah.
18th, come on, pretzels, caramel, peanut butter, chocolate.
Yeah.
It's like everything all in one. It's awesome.
Yeah, and after you eat 2 of them, it's like you're ready to puke because it's too much. Like they're
Just
delicious,
eat one so that you're healthier overall, but it had that
no,
just
that's the
burst
problem.
of
Like
flavor.
it's the opposite end of the spectrum. It's like Kit Kat's overrated because you could eat 20 and not even feel like you ate any, and then Take 5's a little bit too much. They're good. It's just too much.
So I'm way more of a chocolate over fruity candy kind of guy. But Jake, number 4, Nerds gummy clusters. Thumbs up, my friend. Those are delicious.
Everybody who tries these realizes how good they are, and then they thank
They're
me.
so good. I'd never heard of them before.
And
but
nobody
I've got a
believes
friend
me until
who's-
they try them. I was like,
I've got a
"Just go
friend
try
who
'em."
seems to be similar to you in terms of knowledge about and appetite for candy, and he brought them over once, and I never heard of them, and they're awesome. Go check out
See?
those Nerds gummy clusters for sure. All right, Funston, let's make a case for. We've talked about him a little bit. Jake likes him too. I like him too. I'm starting him everywhere where I've got him. So let's just hear the full fleshed out case for Hank Ruggs.
Oh, Hank Ruggs. Yeah. So here's the case. He's making a big play every week, and I said this in my rankings. He's like bet the over on longest reception every week because it's always in the mid 20s, and he's literally had a 23+ yard catch against every opponent this year. He has 9 21-yard catches on the year. A few of them are 40+ yards. If you look at the guys that have made that many big plays at the wide receiver position, they're all studs. And if you look at the last 5 weeks, throw out week 1, he's a top 20 fantasy wide receiver in half PPR. So you can say, oh, it's a tough matchup against Philly. They've done a good job. But you know what? You can look at Henry Ruggs' schedule. He's played some tough secondaries. Week in and week out, he makes big plays. When you have that kind of upside and you have 6 teams on a bye, I think you got to rank him. You got to push the top 20 ranking. He's got to be a wide receiver too, because there's too much upside, to drop him any further.
And something you love about Henry Ruggs too, they have taken at least one deep shot on him every single day. I mean, they know how they're going to butter their bread in the passing game. He gets at least, at the bare minimum, one opportunity to make what would be a basically fantasy game-making play if he and Derek Carr connect. You know you're getting at least the shot one time and probably a couple more times than that. Let's get to this question here from Truly Epic. I mean, truly, this one might be decided for you. Have to start 2 of these guys, Allen Robinson, Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham, T.Y. Hilton. Sounds like OBJ's out. T.Y. could be out as well. But in a world where 3 of these guys are, or where Odell's the only one out, which 2 are you starting, Jake?
I mean, if T.Y. Hilton plays, you got to play T.Y. Hilton. They wouldn't risk him. I mean, they obviously
Sunday night.
I know, but that's what I say. Well, like if we know on Saturday, that's you can't wait till that game and say, oh, I got no backup plan. But yeah, it would be T.Y. Hilton, and as much as I had to say this, Allen Robinson, the Bateman is fun, but he still can. Best case scenario is 3 behind Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, who Mark Andrews back to being arguably top 3. What's your little?
Let me ask you this, Funston. I guess you get to answer this first. I wasn't really trying to cut you off. I was just trying to tell Funston not to jump in. Let's say you have T.Y. Hilton and you can pick up Deontay Harris or something for the Monday night game, or right? Like, would you do that and risk T.Y. Hilton, or would you just roll with Allen Robinson and Rashad Bateman?
I might risk it because I actually toyed with the idea of picking up Deontay Harris. I only had 1 catch last week, but he. You can kind of imagine there's a potential for a big play or 2 in that game against Seattle. And I like T.Y. Hilton if he plays considerably more than these other 2 guys. So, yeah, I think that's fair. I would say if I was stuck with the Robinson-Bateman decision, I'd probably go Robinson, same with Jake, but I think I would at least put Bateman in that spot in my starting lineup for a little while just to see how it feels. But ultimately I'd probably pull the plug out and go with Robinson. But yeah, I think Hilton, I might be willing to go with a Monday night dart throw like Deontay Harris as a fallback if T.Y. doesn't play.
All right, guys. I didn't want to end with a tight end question because they're boring as hell, but I do want to get to a tight end question because there are some guys who can be, fringy starters, especially with all the buys this week. You guys have the exact same top 12 tight ends. A little bit of difference in who's where, but the exact same. Who's someone outside that group, Jake, that you would throw a dart at this week?
Mo Alley Cox. Really comes
yeah,
to,
sure.
Yeah.
Sure, take that one.
I mean, outside of that, you're fine. Then Brandon's team, Gerald Everett. At least he saw a little bit of boost with Geno
take
Smith.
My fallback now too. Just take all of it. I'm just kidding.
I didn't go further into Mo Alley Cox, so I went to Gerald Everett. You can talk about.
I'll go with
Alley
another
Cox.
one anyway, so you can talk about whoever
You're gonna go Ross Dwelly. The only three that
I'm
matter?
I'm gonna go with maybe a bigger dart throw than that.
Okay.
Bigger dart throw. Yeah, well, let's hear the Mo Alley Cox case, Jake.
Oh no, it's like he's still splitting a ton with Jack Doyle, but the fact is similar to Zach Pascal to start this season and the Adam Thielen situation, like whatever it is, he's getting red zone and end zone targets. He's actually the only Colts player who had an end zone target last week. So it's just that's where he's out there. It's similar to like the Gronkowski situation in a different way. It's like Gronkowski doesn't play all the snaps because they don't want to get him hurt at this point, but when he's out there, they're looking for him. When Mo Alley Cox is running routes, Carson Wentz is looking his way a decent amount of time.
Yeah, I'll throw out CJ Uzoma, who's bubbled up the last couple of weeks. Like Baltimore, one of their serious areas of problems in the passing game is the tight end. They've actually done a good job against wide receivers, but tight ends have absolutely killed them. So I could see Uzoma having one of those random, touchdown and 40, 50-yard games and then going back, to sleep for a few weeks. But as far as like an upside dart throw, I think outside the top 12. Look, I think the top 12, the reason why we have all the same guys is because there's a pretty big cliff between number 12 and number 13 and the rest of the group. So, yeah, you're hopefully not out in that abyss.
All right, guys, a wide receiver 3 who you're down on this week. And we've talked about this a little bit. Anyone who we're really talking about as a wide receiver 3 is almost certainly starting. Sure, there's going to be people who, just aren't hit by this bye week and who have some wide receiver depth, but most wide receiver 3s are going to find their way into starting lineups. So we're not saying you're sitting this guy, but someone Funston who you're just not feeling great about, but still probably starting.
I think all the guys that we talked about, Bears, Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney. I have Corey Davis down, based upon what he did last time, based upon the matchup. But, I'm playing these guys most likely. Yeah, I mean, again, it's such a tough week that I'll just sit on those. The Bears, I got those guys firmly in my wide receiver 3 ranks. I think they're consensus firmly in the wide receiver 3 ranks, and I would feel terrible if I have to lean on one of them.
All right, then I'll give. I don't feel great about Hunter Renfrow just because Brian Edwards finally second most snaps last week, only behind Darren Waller. So it changed. But if this new system, well, not system or new situation, is going to get Brian Edwards more involved, then it's going to be Edwards and Ruggs, like a lot of people thought this could be. And Darren Waller has been a little bit quiet over the past couple games. It's just. You can't have all 4. Like, we're not going to have – this isn't Tom Brady. This is Derek Carr. So, and still Josh Jacobs is back to being a thing. So I just haven't I don't feel great about starting Renfrow because his ceiling was never that high. It was just the safe receptions, and I'm worried that he might not be as safe as he was.
All right, guys, let's round third, head for home. A couple more topics I want to ask you about. First, again, let's make a trade at the wide receiver position. Someone you're higher on than most for the rest of the season. If you can nail it the way you did the last one at running back, that would be great too. Who you got, Jake?
I don't have anybody.
Chase Claypool. Everybody's like, Ben Roethlisberger still his quarterback. And I was like, okay, Ben Roethlisberger was his quarterback the 2 games before that where he had giant numbers. And the fact is he's always had big numbers when there's only 2 wide receivers there. And there are only 2 wide receivers. So I would say him. The other one, you said Amari Cooper earlier. People are frustrated and he's on a bye. But, Amari Cooper is... He's the Amari Cooper he's always been. He's Tyler Lockett again. That's people think that after last year it was all of a sudden going to be glorious and wonderful every single week. But you just have to face this is more of who Cooper is than anything. So Claypool, Cooper, both of them. I'll still go take both as top 20 wide receivers, even potentially top 15.
Man, I'm kind of riffing right here. Henry Ruggs maybe doesn't have the street cred yet as in terms of trade value that he should. I'd be interested in him. I would even say like on a lower kind of like sneaky play, Jarvis Landry on the precipice of being back. Like he is the one reliable receiver in Cleveland that you can feel good about week in and week out. You could probably make a bigger deal where he's just like the sweetener. And you get something a little bit more than a sweetener out of him. So I'll say those 2 guys.
Maybe a gettable guy, too, after this week. If you're thinking this one's going to play to script later tonight, low scoring, he doesn't do much. Case Keenum starting for the Browns. Maybe a time to kick the tires on Jarvis Landry. Let's wrap things up here, guys. Fast forward to Monday. Jake, what is Monday's fantasy headline?
I forgot that you did this. I wasn't even thinking about this one.
Damn right you did.
I know. I can't. There's nothing here. There's like this week sucks. Brandon Brandon,
That's
you
the
have to
headline.
go for
That's the headline. This week sucked.
There's going to be something more fun than that, you guys.
I'm trying to think.
I know. I'm trying to think as well.
Calvin Ridley's back. Calvin Ridley is. All the doubts
you
are gone for Calvin. Calvin Ridley's back to being trusted as a top 5 wide receiver. He's going to go off this week against Miami.
Yeah, man, I think it's Ramondre Stevenson is my the guy who could be the out of nowhere guy that scores he could have 2 touchdowns and cobble together 70 yards and everybody's talking about him in a big way. And he's
Ramondre.
Yeah, so there you go. I'll go with that.
All right.
Kind of weak, much like week 7 sort of weak. That's what
you
our
guys.
responses to that were weak.
But no matter what, you guys can always dig deep and find something, and that's why we love the Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast. We hope you do out there as well. Thank you for joining us here on the Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast. For Brandon, for Jake, I am Michael Beller. We are back with you next week. If you have someone starting tonight, I guess good luck. I'm sort of sorry, but good luck with that. Good luck with everything you got going on this weekend. Let's start getting those W's tonight. We'll talk to you all soon.